Hello, hello, my friends, my family, my loves. Welcome to another episode of What the Puck, where we take a look at anything and everything related to the amazing sport of hockey. I am Gregory Doudna, and on today's episode, we're going to be looking to answer a simple yet complicated question. Yeah, simple yet complicated. We're going all oxymoron on this video, as today we're going to be getting as basic and beginner friendly as possible, because we're going to be looking at the answer to the question, what the puck is hockey? More specifically, what the puck is ice hockey? That's right, today we're not talking about field hockey or floor hockey or roller hockey or any of those other hockeys. I'm sure there's some overlap, but I don't know those, so we're not talking about that, because on this channel, we talk about ice hockey. That's right, the sport that requires a giant sheet of frozen H2O and enough padding to make the Michelin Man jealous. The sport where they decided running wasn't bad enough, so let's strap razor blades to the bottom of our feet and regularly break the sound barrier. The sport that makes race cars look slow and brings grown men to tears. That's me. I'm the grown man in tears. Anyway, enough about me and my issues. Let's get into it. Now, if you're not new to the sport of hockey, this video probably isn't for you. But hey, feel free to stick around, hang out. I'm sure you'll be entertained in one way or another. So, just what the puck is this wild game? Well, hockey is a competitive team-based sport played by two opposing teams on a giant sheet of ice. These teams attempt to outscore each other over a predetermined amount of time. The amount of time varies depending on the league and the level at which the game is played. Now, for most of this channel, I'll be focusing on the NHL, or the National Hockey League, which is the world's premier professional league for the sport of hockey. Now, as you'll see multiple times throughout this video, hockey decided to be unique. Now, rather than using quarters or halves, or kind of standard periods of time, they decided to be real special. They decided to go with three 20-minute intervals called periods, thus making for a 60-minute long game. Now, there are exceptions to this, like overtime, for example. So if a game at the end of regulation, at the end of those 60 minutes, is tied, you will go into what is called overtime. Now again, this depends on the league and the level of play, as in many youth leagues and adult amateur leagues, the game would simply end in a tie. This used to be the case years ago in the NHL, but a rule introduced in 2005 eliminated ties. Before 2005, an NHL game would go into a 10-minute sudden death overtime, where if no team scored in those 10 minutes, then the game would end in a tie. In 2005, however, the very contentious shootout was added so that no games would end in a tie ever again. Now, we won't get into the shootout in this video, as that's a subject I'd like to make an entire video on another time. Now that we've talked about hockey's need to be special and not play in quarters or halves like practically every other sport on earth, we're not even going to look at baseball or cricket or at softball or any of that. Let's get into the actual way the sport is played. So first, let's talk about the teams. Each team is comprised of skaters and goaltenders. Simply put, the skaters will attempt to score on the opposing team's goaltender. This is done by propelling the puck into the opposing goal, which the namesake goaltender is attempting to defend. That's right, hockey once again had to be unique and decided to play with a puck instead of, a ball? Although, to be honest, they did originally start with a ball, and for reasons it evolved. Again, another video, or just, let's move on. And again, another video that deals with the requirements of how to score a goal and the rules behind all of it, all that good stuff. Like I say, there's more coming, don't worry. This is a basic, beginner-friendly video. To finish up, let's talk about the one thing that brings all sports fans together. Yes, believe it or not, there is something that regardless of which team you decide to cheer for, it'll bring you together like a tight-knit family. And that is the hatred of officials. Oh yes, officials. A group which I actually belonged to for a period of over a decade, and someday will join again. And yes, believe it or not, even though I myself am an official, I will even find a reason to be upset with them from time to time. All joking aside, I do actually want to give you guys a little bit of a spoiler warning. This channel is actually going to revolve a lot around officials and officiating. That's something I'll get into another time, so for now, let's just move on with the rest of this video. So, let's talk about officials. Now, once again, depending on the league, depending on the level, there's going to be a difference in how games are officiated. Generally, there's just a different set of rules, and a different amount of officials that will be on the ice all at the same time. But again, we're sticking with the NHL here. That is the main focus of this channel. Now again, I'm not going to go crazy in depth on how officials work in the NHL, another video for another time. But to stay just as basic and as simple as I can, we're going to talk about how they're a part of this game. Generally speaking, you have 2 referees and 2 linesmen. Generally, the referees are the ones who are going to call penalties and goals, and the linesmen are the ones who are going to deal with any infractions that have to do with the lines on the ice. And rounding out the officiating team, we've got to talk about off-ice officials. These are going to be your scorekeepers, your timekeepers, and your penalty box attendants. Now, generally speaking, the purpose of officials is to keep the flow of the game, to know the rules, and to enforce the playing rules to make the game safe, fun, and enjoyable for everybody. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, there are obviously issues that arise from this, and that's why they end up garnering such hate from fans. But with that, we've come to the end of this video where I tried to explain just the basic sense of what hockey is. I hope you found this relatively brief and simple explanation of the game both informative and entertaining. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, there's an insane amount of rules, nuances, and information involved in this sport, which again, we will be getting into in depth a lot on this channel. So for now, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, check out my other video where I explained the expansion draft that just happened this past offseason and how it welcomed the Seattle Kraken into the NHL. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is What the Puck. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, please be safe, healthy, and go have some fun.